They know that Dad's going to be away for 10 hours tomorrow watching the World's Finals live in New York City, and they're just clinging on to me as much as they possibly can. So, with the World's Finals coming up in a few hours, if you're watching this on Saturday when I release it, or if it's already happened, congrats, you already know the result. There's a lot of anticipation for this matchup, and I was thinking about possibly doing a video where I break it down, I do all this, but honestly, I watched Kadrill's hour-long thing, and it's like, yeah, I'm never going to be able to top that. So, we're going to do something that I am decent at, and that's reacting to stuff. theScore Esports released a video a day ago saying, can Faker finally win it all? And there's actually a lot to discuss beyond just like the draft picks and the meta and how this is going to go based on how teams are doing at Worlds. And I'm curious to see if this touches on it, because I want to go into that side of things.
But once you get out,
T1 kind of needs to fight. Look at Owner. He wants to go in. He
Of
doesn't
course,
like it.
Kadrill's the first thing that pops up when we're watching it too.
not to have the cleanse.
Stays on the flank.
It's kind of hard to go in though.
TP coming in.
Oh, Faker!
Yep.
And he puts a tower! Oh my god, he just won the game! He just won the game! That's it! They can end! They can end the game!
JDG, the Goliath.
This is beyond
from
meta that
China,
we're reacting to a
One of
reaction,
the most
but-
dominant years in League of Legends history. I seriously doubted whether any human could stop them from reaching the finals of Worlds this year. But Faker
mean,
ain't
fair.
human.
He's not. He's really not. Faker, before they even get into this, Faker is on a level that literally only Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, I think those are probably the only three that I can think of on like sports Mount Rushmore that are even close to like this level and longevity.
All right, just before we get into today's video, we've got brand new merch. Check it out.
You can do it when you're at the lake or in the
Because we're
server.
reacting, I'm
Buy
gonna
yourself
make sure I
a
leave
With
this
the
in.
Woods. Never let anyone tell you it's wrong because
I'm not really a
bacon,
big
it
fishing
always
guy.
feels
Never
good.
have been. So, like,
A zip-up
something about
hoodie made
water
for
that you
all
can't
those
see
who
the bottom
mastered
of
the
still
art of
freaks me out.
bathing.
I love the
Check
ocean,
out
to be
theScore
very clear,
esports
but like,
Drop 2 available now.
All right, if you'd
Fishing,
like to look of any of that, check out the link. in
Never
the
done anything
description
for me.
below. So, T1 and Faker have a date with Weibo at the World's 2023 final. Faker is now one series away from taking home his fourth World's title, 10 years after his first, 7 years after his most recent. So let's
7.
talk about the JDG game first before we get too carried away.
Okay,
the
fair
odds
enough.
were against T1. I talked about this extensively last week.
Nah.
The safer bet was probably on JDG.
Nah.
They were the team that had won everything they could so far this year.
Fair.
They were the ones who had only lost 5 series in 2023.
But the problem is the meta started swinging heavily back in their favor towards the later stages of Worlds. You could see it actually in the first Weibo series whenever they picked Milio over NRG and just won the series outright with it. And that was always going to be the catch where, like, if you swap back to a ranged or enchanter support that really unlocks Keria again, they're fine. Also, like, you think back to Worlds last year, and Zeus was like crushing everybody, but just mentally collapsed in the finals. Kingen had the best of them, but that was not happening the entire tournament other than that.
They were the ones on track to achieve the never been achieved before Golden Road. But
G2's
Faker
still
and
now the
T1
closest.
Were pretty immaculate all round, and everyone on the team seemed to have their own moment throughout the series. Game 1, we got to see Keria absolutely flex on Bard and Gumayusi pull out
Yep.
the first Jhin game we've seen at Worlds so far.
And it actually looked good
Going
too.
Right back in his ass. Owner in the area. Big damage coming in for the Dark and Blade. Missing
Watch
back
this.
trying to buy some space with a shock.
And hit Ruler.
Clean.
Yep, there it is.
And in comes the curtain call.
Game 3 saw Owner pull off one of the sickest engages on Rel I've seen
The
in
flash
a long
over the
time.
Ash into
Might
the
go for the 50-50, but it's absolutely
Brilliant.
psycho. Flashes over the arrow.
Absolutely
Faker goes in.
brilliant.
It's incredibly clean. JDG with the counterpunch. Can they get anything back? Ruler untouched on the backside. Dragon still standing. But Owner will take that.
Ruler tried to do
away
everything he could, and
My
still it
God,
wasn't enough.
What an engage from T1.
And in that game, we had what might go on to be an all-time iconic Worlds moment. JDG had a gold lead. They
It-
were
it will.
besieging
If
T1's
T-
base with Baron buff. T1
T1 has to win though in order for this to be iconic. Gumayusi's Varus like Q snipes onto Baron last year were incredible, but they'll never be put on like the Mount Rushmore of plays in Worlds because they didn't win. It's the same thing with like Def's moment, I would argue last year with the inhibitor respawning was probably the biggest moment that we've seen in Worlds history since probably Faker's like death on Karma whenever like Ruler flashed on him. I would argue it's the biggest moment since then, and like the best storyline that represents that entire world. But because you lost the game off of it, it's not like it's never going to be included in the hype reels as much. It's a great story piece. It's not a great hype piece. Gumayusi's Varus snipe, amazing, but they lost.
Were praying for a miracle, and Faker answered their prayers with an Azir ult from heaven.
Yeah, he calls it while he's in bot lane. He's at tier 2 bot tower. Is like, okay, we're slowly bleeding out. We need to do something. And just,
I love Gumayusi and Keria fanboying there in that clip. I really felt
I don't blame
It's kind of like for a moment they realized that their own mid laner was quite literally Faker.
Yep.
Guma also had an absolutely disgusting 1v2 play in game 4.
Goes calling it out, Ruler! Looking to take over the fight, Ruler still standing, Guma firing back! Ruler goes
okay, hang on.
down.
I want to slow that play down because as a Varus main, it's impressive, but like people underestimate how much damage you can do as Varus just literally standing there and autoing. Let me turn off the audio. Slow this down to 0.5. So Varus is up here. Varus misses his ult. E is down. So there's no grievous wounds at all. So you just have to burst it. So he gets 1, 2, 3, 4, and then gets the arrow. So he's got 4 autos off, and he's level 15 to 13. So he's 2 levels up on Zeri. That he just got all 4 autos up, and once you land that empowered Q, done. From there, you do have to worry about 369, but he's also a level ahead. His E is probably reset, so he can probably get Grievous here. Yep. Throws the E, so he gets Grievous. And his whole entire team is there. And his Q reset, so he has Q again as well. So, like, it was impressive of a 1v2. Like, given the moment, obviously it's incredible. But, like, people just sleep on how much damage Varus can do by just standing there. So long as you're building lethal tempo and Rage Blade. Yeah.
After that, it was clear T1 weren't going to let this series reach silver scrapes. They had their eyes on finals.
It is not LPL versus LCK. It is T1 versus the LPL. And they like those
odds. Incredible call.
To finals.
The legendary Korean caster Yun broke down on stream after the game. It was an emotional moment for a lot of people outside of the Korean scene, so I can only imagine what a pillar of it like Yun must have felt. We said it was going to feel like a final. It really did. And the numbers
shit, I cried when NRG made it out of group
to
stage.
Over
So.
4.3 million viewers, making it the second most watched League of Legends series of all time. That's right. The only series that attracted more viewers was
last year's
year's
World
Finals, which
Yep.
also featured T1. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this year's Finals breaks that record.
It's
too.
going to.
Some
It's
people have
gonna
pointed out that
smash it.
Weibo is actually extremely popular in the LPL, pulling in huge viewership numbers this year. A lot of these fans.
It all
are
just
like
depends
the
on whether it
fans
goes to
of
5
Valve,
games.
from the
If we get a
Valve
3-game
days,
sweep,
Crisps,
it ain't gonna
FPX
hit it.
fans, but perhaps more than anyone, fans of the Shy. It's
Yep.
hard to understate just how revered the Shy is in China. The 2018 world champion is a beloved celebrity with millions of followers. So yeah, all things considered, I think this upcoming final has a real chance of breaking the all-time viewership record.
It does,
And I
if it
know
goes to 5.
viewership numbers don't always tell the full story about an esports health,
They
but
do not.
breaking viewership records certainly doesn't hurt. T1 did lose the
obviously.
coin toss for Game 1 side selection this week, with Weibo choosing blue side, but Faker didn't really look phased at all. In fact, he
Yeah, he
almost
was
looked
smirking.
quietly amused by the whole thing.
I was gonna
To
say
be
after
fair,
they picked
T1 had red
after
side
they
in
picked
all 3 of their games in their
the LoL esports TikTok page actually posted and did like an edit of it, and you could just see like they zoom in on Faker smirking, like he's like, "Go ahead, pick blue side."
stomp over LNG in quarters, so they're probably not sweating it too much. So the question on everyone's mind now is, will this finals be close? Maybe, but a lot of people feel like we've already seen the real final.
I'm going to be
No.
honest, and I don't want to like deflate the World Finals because I think it's still hype, and I really hope that we see an insane best of 5. But I'm gonna deflate it. I think T1 clear in every role, and their draft is infinitely easier and better. Like And I don't think that's a bold statement. This is an impossible puzzle.
Congratulations, Team 1. There's no way Weibo can come
Yeah,
back.
and if I jinx it, great. I mean, sure, I'll shave my head if Weibo win Worlds.
There's definitely a really strong belief now that T1 will be able to do it this time.
Okay, this is where I disagree with that statement because the reason, yes, Weibo went through arguably easier opponents to get there in the grand scheme of things, like pre-tournament like consideration, sure it was more difficult, but Weibo's got an insane read on the meta as well. Like people gotta stop discounting it. Yes, BLG series for them was close, and by proxy, people are gonna be like, oh well, BLG never beat JDG. JDG lost 3-1 to T1 and got stomped. Like therefore, Weibo doesn't stand a chance. No, I personally disagree. And also, you look at Weibo's record versus JDG. You can't just assume that. The same, I called it out earlier, but the NRG series where they brought out Milio should be indicative to people that yes, Weibo likes playing this meta as well. Now, does that mean that T1's not better at it? No, I would give T1 the edge. And I think if T1 loses this series, it is an upset. Again, a massive one. Arguably even bigger than last year. Last year, DRX kept knocking off extremely hard opponents, and we kept writing them off. This year, nobody's really writing off Weibo because they haven't beat that like preconceived tournament favorite. So nobody's coming in with like any expectations for them to win this whatsoever, other than Cadril, who's just, you know, dick riding the shy.
Faker and friends will be able to get over that line. In Pick'ems, over 90% of fans are backing T1.
Yeah, that's not a valuable stat though, because like if you look at Pick'ems throughout the entire tournament so far, anytime that T1 plays, they've always been overwhelming favorites. And obviously people were just gonna pick that over Weibo now that they beat JDG.
One to win. I'm not even sure the last time I saw the league community so united with a prediction. Last series, a lot.
Literally the BLG series. It was like the last time they were united was when it was even, or not BLG. The Weibo, it was BLG versus Genji. BLG was like 5%, and nobody believed. I kept saying Genji's gonna choke, which we'll get into why that's important for finals.
People were saying their hearts were going with T1, but their head said JDG. I don't think that's the case anymore with this upcoming series.
No,
even if you're not a T1 fan, it's hard to argue they're not the favorites here. They look like they've solved the meta, particularly with fully ranged bot lanes that have come about mid-tournament. But there's
nobody has ever solved the world's meta. It evolves as time goes on.
Definitely a lot of creeping down in everyone's minds too. Remember, this exact same T1 roster was in the same situation last year. They were expected to beat the underdogs in DRX.
Yep, and they did.
That will likely be on the minds of these T1 players and their fans. And for Faker, he'll probably remember the 2017 finals he missed out on too. In the first 4 years of Faker's professional career, he won Worlds 3 times. Think about that. In the year since, he's attended Worlds 5 times, got to the finals twice, but never won that trophy again. I don't care if you're literally Faker, you're gonna feel that mounting pressure. I'm sure he's wondered at times why these Worlds titles came so easily to him in the beginning of his career, but have eluded him ever since. Faker has to carry the pressure of being the League of Legends GOAT, but without any recent Worlds title to point to. He's now 1 series away from getting that. Added to all that pressure, this may be the last time we see this T1 roster play together if they don't win this final. They've been together for 2 years. They've won domestic titles, they've broken records, they've had massive lows and unbelievable highs, but will they run it back for another year if they let yet?
No, I don't think they do, personally. Even if they win it, I think there's actually a chance that they don't run it back.
Another Worlds trophy slip through their fingers? A lot of people suspect no. That could be a lot of pressure for T1 going into this series. A lot of pressure that Weibo simply doesn't have. Sure, they'll be feeling the nerves of going into the biggest League of Legends series of the year, but nobody expected them to get this far. Genji, JDG, LNG, even T1 after a certain point.
That expectation kind of changed as time went on.
Expecting to see in the final. As respectable as they've been, Weibo was not one of them. And that underdog mentality.
Oh, wait, we're talking about Weibo. I'm dumb. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, that's fair.
And turn the whole fight into a sort of David and Goliath situation. But really, analyzing history can only get you so far. Trying to guess the psychological state of T1 and Faker has its limits. What really matters is how these teams come together on the day. Faker is now 3 to 5 wins away from lifting the Summoners Cup. That's it. That would have sounded absolutely absurd
Well,
a few
3
months ago
wins,
when
but
T1
5
were
games,
a middle
but
of
yeah.
the pack LCK team trying to find their feet with an injured Faker on the bench. But that's exactly where we are. There's nothing more to say than this. If T1 wins this series, Faker will ascend beyond God status in League of Legends. It's that simple. The few edgelords out there that have been trying to argue that Faker isn't the undisputed GOAT will have nothing left to say. This would be a man that had won his
cannot
first
believe
Worlds
people have
at
actually
17
tried
years
making that
old.
argument.
He'd won 3 by the time
How?
he was
How do you
20.
even
For
try
the
that?
next 7 years, he watched his teammates come and go as T1 failed to reach those lofty heights again. But he never gave up. He never lost hope. He never stopped grinding. He never let the setbacks define him, including an absolutely heartbreaking Worlds final last year where he was just a single game away from redemption. And now his reward
And it was his fault.
for all of this perseverance is right there for the taking. If you wanted to pull off what he's done this year to get to this point and
Well, partially.
then go and win the whole thing, you literally have to be Faker. So it's a good job, he literally is.
Okay. The important note that I want to talk about here at the end is, and by the way, Score, great video on that. Please keep making these. I've always enjoyed Score's breakdowns of stuff, and I will continue to react to these so long as they will let me, and I should probably get permission from somebody on this if I'm going to make this a consistent thing later, because they put out insanely good content. We got to talk about the mental edge. It's the same reason why so many people were fully on like the Gen G train early on. Look, so many people were on the Gen G hype train this year at Worlds, despite them not like beating anybody significant. Oh my God, another dog coming. Gen G were on the hype train coming into this, but the thing that I kept saying was they have not overcome this hurdle yet of getting past quarterfinals and semifinals where they, for whatever reason, collapse. It's a continuous problem, a continuous thing for them. And for T1, there is this underlying bit of pressure that started back in 2019 with G2 at MSI, then again at Worlds. It existed with Damwon back in, what, 2021 or 2020? No, it was 2021 because then Damwon lost 3-2 to EDG after Faker and then lost 3-2, I think, to Damwon in the semifinals or quarterfinals, whatever that was. Last year, they lose in the finals in Game 5 as well, with notably Zeus collapsing under the pressure of the moment. Faker also didn't play well either. Had T1 won that series, it was going to be purely on the back of Keria would have been my MVP vote, and then Gumayusi would have been 2, Owner probably would have been 3. Faker had a bad series, Zeus had a bad series, and it just felt like when you get in that stadium, when you get in front of that many people, it's just different. We could sit here and say that the semifinals was somewhat relevant to that, but I really don't think it is. When you look at Worlds last year and the crowds that T1 was in front of, in quarterfinals it was sold out Madison Square Garden Hulu Theater. It semifinals it was sold out State Farm Arena. But then finals, there's this aura and this atmosphere around it that is similar to the Super Bowl, where you have a week to sit on and it's just like one match, one thing, but then you also have all these extracurriculars going on. You can't go outside and not see in Korea right now the massive Teemo that's around. You can't miss all of the things that are saying, yeah, this is Worlds Finals. It adds pressure that doesn't exist in any other series normally. Even against JDG, who is arguably the harder opponent, I think Weibo is going to be just as difficult because you have to overcome your own mental here. You know it's Worlds Finals, and that's not an easy hurdle to overcome. T1 entirely has the hands to win this, and should win it if it was just a hands matchup, but it's not. It's mental. Everything at this level comes down to a mental battle, and when you get on that stage, the Shy realistically is the one who's won more recently in that environment. There's a world where T1 does start crumbling if they get behind and if pressure gets to them, and you feel the weight of the moment and they haven't been able to overcome that. Sure, they beat JDG and stomped them, but like it's not the same as this exact mental hurdle that they have to overcome. I pray to God they do, because obviously I'm biased. I've never seen Faker win in my lifetime. I fully got into Worlds and League of Legends back in 2017 when Faker started losing. So I have yet to see him lift a trophy. I've only ever seen him cry, which is a weird thing to be able to say, but it's true. I'll just leave everybody with this. My final prediction for tonight is T1 3-1. I want to see them lose a game. And I want to see them overcome that mental hurdle of like, oh God, we lost on the big stage. You know, are we going to collapse? I want to see Faker specifically play well, because last finals he did not. I want to see Zeus be able to hold his own versus the Shy and not just get his shit pushed in. Keria and Gumayusi, I think they're just made for moments like this, and they're going to be perfectly fine. Keria, you do worry about New Jeans being on the stage just prior to this. But yeah, I think 3-1 T1 would like solidify it and would eliminate any arguments that people are going to have of, oh, Weibo was a pushover. Weibo needs to take a game off of them to like dispel those arguments that semifinals was the real fight. But I'm hoping Faker can finally pull it off. I'm hoping they can all overcome their demons and finally rise to the moment. It's been a long time coming for T1 fan, but we'll see. Don't underestimate Weibo. The worst thing in the world that you can do is underestimate them, because they will take that and run with it. So be warned. This should not be easy, and don't treat it like it is. But we'll see where it ends up. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video. Thank you to theScore for making this one. This was fun. This was a good watch and an entertaining time. Catch you later.